A boy's tears watching his father leave for deployment broke hearts on the military base. Months later, his mother found something in the kitchen that left everyone speechless. The sizzle of butter hitting the hot pan woke Marcus before his alarm. His eyes opened to the gray dawn seeping through his bedroom window. 6:45 a.m. Sunday. Pancake day. He jumped out of bed, his bare feet hitting the cold wooden floor. Down the hall, he heard his father whistling the Army song, the same tune he whistled every Sunday morning. Marcus didn't run, he was 10 now, and running was for little kids. But he walked fast enough that his mom would have told him to slow down if she'd been awake. The kitchen smelled like melted butter and coffee. His father stood at the stove, already dressed in his Army PT shorts and t-shirt, spatula in hand. "Right on time, soldier," Dad said, not turning around. He always knew when Marcus entered a room. "Ready for duty?" "Yes, sir." Marcus straightened his back, fighting a grin. "At ease." Dad turned, smiling. "First task, retrieval of ingredients." "What's the list?" Marcus recited from memory. "Flour, eggs, milk, sugar, salt, baking powder." He opened the fridge, careful not to let it slam. Mom was still sleeping. "And butter." "But you already got that." Good memory. That's important in the Army. Dad cracked eggs into a bowl while Marcus gathered the dry ingredients. "Know what else is important?" "What?" "Timing." Dad pointed to the pan with his spatula. "See how the butter's just starting to bubble? Not brown, just bubble? That's when you know it's ready." Marcus stood on his tiptoes to see better. He'd been watching his father make pancakes every Sunday for as long as he could remember, but there was always something new to learn. The kitchen window faced the base's main road. A dark green military vehicle rolled past, and Dad's whistling stopped for a second. His shoulders tensed. Marcus noticed. He always noticed when his father's mood changed, but before he could ask why, Dad was whistling again, measuring flour into the bowl. "Your turn to mix," Dad said, handing Marcus the whisk. "Remember, small lumps are okay," Marcus finished. "Too smooth makes tough pancakes." "That's my boy." Dad ruffled Marcus's hair. "You know, when I was deployed in, Mom's footsteps in the hallway made Dad pause. She appeared in the doorway, already dressed, which was weird for Sunday morning. "Smells good in here," she said, but her smile looked different. "Tight." Dad poured coffee into her favorite mug, the one Marcus had made in art class, with "World's Best Mom" painted in wobbly letters. His hands weren't quite steady. Coffee splashed onto the counter. Mom's phone buzzed. She checked it, then looked at Dad. Something passed between them, something Marcus couldn't read. "I'll get plates," Marcus said, trying to break whatever strange tension had filled the kitchen. The first batch of pancakes turned out perfect, golden brown with crispy edges. Dad always let Marcus have the first one, but today Marcus noticed his father checking his phone between flips, something he never did during pancake time. "Everything okay, Dad?" "Course it is, buddy." Dad's voice was cheerful. Too cheerful. "Hey, want to hear about the time your old man had to make pancakes for his whole unit using nothing but an MRE?" And another military vehicle passed. Dad's story stopped. He walked to the sink, turned on the water, started scrubbing a pan that was already clean. Marcus watched his father's back, memorizing the way his shoulders moved, how his dog tags clinked softly against his chest when he leaned forward. Something felt wrong. The pancakes were the same, the kitchen was the same, but something was different. Mom touched Dad's shoulder. "Hon, we should." "Later," Dad said quietly. "Please." Marcus pretended not to hear. He focused on his pancakes, cutting them into perfect triangles like his father had taught him. The syrup made pools on his plate, and he drew patterns in it with his fork. Through the window, he could see more military vehicles than usual heading toward the base command center. Dad kept washing the same pan. Mom's coffee got cold, untouched. "Marcus," Dad finally said, turning from the sink, "how about after breakfast we—" His phone buzzed. Dad checked it, and this time Marcus saw his father's face change. Just for a second. Then the smile was back, but different. Like Mom's. "Actually, buddy, I need to make a quick call." "You finished those pancakes?" "Okay. Can't let them go to waste." "Army regulation." He tried to wink, but it looked wrong. Marcus watched his father leave the kitchen, heard his heavy footsteps heading toward his study. Mom got up to follow. "Mom, eat your pancakes, baby. They'll get cold." The kitchen felt bigger without them. Marcus could hear their voices, too low to make out words, coming from down the hall. He cut another triangle of pancake, but it tasted like nothing now. Outside, more vehicles passed. The Sunday morning silence of the base was different today. Everything was different. Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by the smell of cooling pancakes and his father's unfinished coffee, listening to the murmur of his parents' voices and the rumble of engines outside, wondering what could make Pancake Sunday feel so wrong. When Dad came back, he'd wash the dishes like he always did, and Marcus would dry them, and everything would be normal again. But Dad didn't come back right away. The pancakes got cold. The syrup patterns turned sticky and dull. Marcus waited, the sound of his parents' worried whispers mixing with the distant roar of military trucks, until the sunny kitchen felt like a different place entirely, a place where Pancake Sundays might not always be guaranteed. "Dad," he called out, his voice sounding younger than he wanted it to. "The dishes are waiting." But for the first time on a Sunday morning, his father didn't answer right away. Marcus sat on his bedroom windowsill 3 days later, watching the base postal truck make its rounds. He hadn't meant to become a window watcher, but since that strange Pancake Sunday, he'd found himself tracking every official vehicle that passed their house. The mail carrier, Staff Sergeant Chun, worked his way down the street with his usual efficiency. 3 houses down. 2. 1. Marcus's fingers pressed against the cool glass as Chun approached their mailbox. Today was different. Instead of the usual quick drop, Chun walked up their driveway, a thick manila envelope in his hand. Marcus's stomach tightened. Through the window, he heard the sharp rap of knuckles on their front door. "I'll get it." His mother's voice carried up the stairs, but Marcus was already moving. He slid down the stairs on silent feet, stopping halfway, where he could see without being seen. Mom opened the door. Chun stood straight, formal, not like the guy who usually joked about their overflowing mailbox. "Mrs. Thompson." Chun held out the envelope. "This requires a signature." Mom's hand shook slightly as she signed the electronic pad. "Thank you, James." "Ma'am." Chun glanced past her, and for a second his eyes met Marcus's. The pity in them made Marcus's throat hurt. The door closed. Mom stood there, staring at the envelope like it might bite her. When she turned, Marcus didn't hide. "Baby, I thought you were playing upstairs. Is that Dad's orders?" She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. Marcus had seen enough deployment notices delivered to his friends' houses to know what they looked like. "Your father will be home in an hour," she said finally. "We'll talk then." But Marcus couldn't wait an hour. The envelope sat on the kitchen table like a bomb while Mom tried to act normal, cleaning already clean counters, reorganizing the spice rack twice. At exactly 1,700 hours, 5 p.m. for civilians, Dad always reminded him, the front door opened. "Family?" Dad's voice carried through the house, trying for cheerful, but missing by inches. "Kitchen," Mom called back. Dad's boots made heavy sounds on the hardwood. He appeared in the doorway, still in his ACUs. His eyes went straight to the envelope. Was all he said. Marcus watched his father transform. Back straighter, jaw tighter. The change from Dad to Sergeant Thompson happened in seconds. "Well," Dad pulled out a kitchen chair. "Might as well do this as a family." Mom sat. Marcus didn't. "Son," Dad's voice was gentle but firm. "Take a seat." Marcus sat, his legs feeling strange and wobbly. The envelope made a ripping sound that seemed too loud for the quiet kitchen. Dad pulled out several papers, putting on his reading glasses. Mom's hand found Marcus's under the table. 12 months, Dad said finally. "Forward deployment. Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar." Mom's hand tightened on Marcus's. He wanted to pull away, to run upstairs, to hide in his closet where he used to hide during thunderstorms when he was little. But he wasn't little anymore. "When?" Mom's voice cracked on the word. 3 weeks. Marcus's chest felt too tight. 3 weeks. 21 days. 504 hours. He'd gotten good at counting time since Jackson's dad deployed last year. "It's a good assignment," Dad continued, using his briefing voice. "Safe base. Important mission. And Qatar's not a combat zone, which means better communication options. We can video call when I have homework," Marcus interrupted, standing so fast his chair squeaked against the floor. Marcus, Mom reached for him. I have homework, he repeated, louder, and ran. He made it to his room before the tears came. Stupid. Crying was stupid. He wasn't a baby. He was a military kid. This was normal. This happened all the time. His walls, covered in army posters and American flags, seemed to mock him now. He begged for each one, proudly telling his father which units and weapons he could identify. Now they all blurred through his tears. A knock on his door. Not Mom's gentle tap or Dad's firm rap. This was both of them. Go away. The door opened anyway. Marcus turned to his window, wiping his face with his sleeve. Son, Dad's voice was closer now. Look at me. You promised. Marcus hadn't meant to say it. You promised after the last 2 to why you'd stay home longer. I know. The bed dipped as Dad sat. Sometimes we don't get to choose when duty calls. That's stupid. Marcus, Mom warned, but Dad held up his hand. No, he's allowed to be angry. Come here, soldier. Marcus didn't want to, but his feet moved anyway. Dad pulled him into a hug that smelled like starched uniforms and boot polish. I'm proud of you, Dad whispered. So proud. And I need you to be strong. I don't want to be strong. Marcus's voice was muffled against his father's uniform. I want you to stay. Mom's arms wrapped around them both. They sat like that until Marcus's tears soaked a dark patch on Dad's ACU top. Later that night, Marcus heard them in the kitchen again. He's too young, Mom was saying. He's a military child. They grow up faster. That's not fair. No, it's not. Marcus crept back to his room, past the walls of army posters he suddenly wanted to tear down. 3 weeks. His father would try to pack 21 days with enough memories to last 12 months. In bed, Marcus stared at his ceiling, listening to the distant sound of helicopters. He thought about Jackson, who'd stopped coming to school for a week after his dad left. About Sarah, who pretended everything was fine until she broke down crying in the cafeteria. About Michael, who started getting into fights after his mom deployed. He wouldn't be like them. He'd be strong. He'd make his father proud. But the next morning, when Dad suggested their usual pancake recipe experiment, Marcus said he wasn't hungry. The hurt in his father's eyes felt like a victory and a punishment all at once. That night, Mom found him sitting in Dad's closet, breathing in the smell of starched uniforms and boot polish, trying to memorize it. She sat next to him, not speaking, until the shadows grew long and dinner needed to be made. Their last family dinner for 12 months. Marcus watched his parents prepare it together, their movements careful, deliberate, like dancers trying not to step on each other's toes. Everything felt like a last time now. Last dinner. Last bedtime story. Last normal day. Marcus pushed his peas around his plate, not eating, just listening to his parents try too hard to make everything seem fine. Nothing was fine. Nothing would be fine for 12 months. Marcus lay in bed at 2,300 hours. 11 p.m., he corrected himself, listening to his parents pack. The sounds filtered through his bedroom wall. Hangers sliding on metal rods, zippers closing, boots dropping on hardwood floors. His father's voice carried, low and steady, reading through a checklist. Extra socks? Check. Field manual. Top of the duffel. New photos. In the side pocket. Marcus slid out of bed. The floor felt cold under his feet. He'd done this every night for the past week, sneaking out to watch them pack, but tonight was different. Tonight was the last night. The hallway stretched dark between his room and his parents'. Light spilled from under their door, along with the shadow of feet moving back and forth. He pressed his back against the wall, making himself small, invisible. Did you pack the protein bars? Mom's voice. 2 boxes. The good sunscreen? Yes. The pictures Marcus drew? A pause. All of them. Marcus touched his pocket, feeling the folded edge of one last drawing. He'd been working on it all week, trying to get his father's uniform exactly right. The tan boots, the camouflage pattern, the American flag patch on the right shoulder. 12 months, Mom said, her voice catching. It'll go fast. You said that last time, and it did. Not for us. Something soft hit the floor, probably Dad's deployment pillow, the one with their family photo printed on it. Marcus had helped pick it out at the base exchange. Remember last deployment? Dad's voice turned lighter. When Marcus was 6? When he tried to mail himself to you in a care package? Had to explain why the post office doesn't ship little boys. They laughed, but it sounded wrong. Stretched thin, Marcus slid down the wall, sitting with his knees pulled up to his chest. He remembered that day. He'd packed his Superman pajamas and his favorite Hot Wheels car, certain that if he could just get to wherever Dad was, everything would be okay. The packing sound stopped. Footsteps crossed the room. "Come here," Dad's voice, softer now. The bed creaked. Mom sniffled. "I hate this part," she whispered. "I know." He's so angry. He's scared. Marcus pressed his face against his knees. He wasn't scared. He was a soldier's son. Soldiers don't get scared. More footsteps. The closet door opened. "Last uniform check," Dad said, back to his checklist voice. Marcus stood up, legs stiff from sitting. He took 3 silent steps toward his room, then froze as his father started singing. Low, almost under his breath, the Army song, first to fight for the right, and to build the nation's might. The same song he sang every Sunday morning during pancakes. The song he taught Marcus when he was 4. The song that meant everything was okay. Everything was normal. Nothing was normal now. Marcus ran back to his room, closing the door with a soft click. He dove under his covers just as footsteps approached his door. The door opened. Light from the hallway cut across his bed. "He's asleep," Mom whispered. "No, he's not." Dad's voice, knowing. "His breathing's too fast. Come on, soldier." Up and at him. Marcus sat up slowly. His father stood in the doorway, still in his PT clothes, Mom behind him. "Can't sleep?" Dad asked. Marcus shook his head. "Me neither." Dad crossed the room, sat on the edge of the bed. "Want to hear a story? About the Army? About the first time I deployed. Before you were born." Marcus scooted over. Mom sat on his other side, her hand finding his. "I was scared," Dad said. "You don't get scared. Everyone gets scared, son. Bravery isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what needs to be done anyway." The bedside lamp cast long shadows on the wall. Outside, crickets chirped, and somewhere distant, a helicopter's blades cut through the night air. "Your mom was pregnant with you," Dad continued. "I was afraid I'd miss your birth. Afraid I wouldn't be there for your first words, first steps. Were you? Made it back 2 weeks before you arrived. Most beautiful sight I'd ever seen. This tiny boy with your mother's eyes and my stubborn chin." Mom laughed softly. "And your appetite." He ate like a soldier from day one. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the night sounds of the base. A car drove past, tires crunching on pavement. The neighbor's dog barked once, twice, fell quiet. "Time for sleep," Dad finally said. "Big day tomorrow." Marcus grabbed his father's arm. "Stay. Just stay until I fall asleep." Dad looked at Mom. She nodded. "Scoot over, soldier." They lay there, Marcus between them, like when he was little and afraid of thunderstorms. Dad hummed the Army song, so quiet it was almost just vibration. Marcus fought sleep, trying to memorize everything. The weight of his father's arm across him. The smell of Mom's shampoo. The sound of 3 people breathing in the quiet dark. He must have lost the fight because when he opened his eyes again, he was alone. Moonlight streamed through his window, painting silver stripes across his Army posters. Voices drifted up from downstairs. He crept to the top of the stairs. His parents sat at the kitchen table, 2 untouched mugs of coffee between them. The packed duffel bag stood by the door like a sentinel. "Promise me," Mom was saying. "I always come back. Promise me anyway. I promise." Dad's dog tags clinked as he leaned forward. "I've got the best reasons in the world to come home." Marcus sat on the top stair, watching through the banister as his parents held hands across the table. The kitchen clock ticked. The coffee grew cold. Nobody moved. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the duffel bag by the door would be gone, along with the man who packed it. Tomorrow, the base would feel bigger, emptier. But tonight, in the quiet kitchen, with moonlight painting everything silver and still, they were still whole. Still a family of 3, not a family of 2 waiting for one. Marcus touched the folded drawing in his pocket. Tomorrow, he'd give it to his father. Tomorrow, he'd be brave. Tonight, he listened to his parents whisper promises in the dark kitchen, memorizing the sound of his father's voice, counting the hours until tomorrow came. The alarm didn't wake Marcus because he hadn't slept. He watched the numbers on his digital clock tick from 0459 to 0500. Dawn crept through his window, turning the darkness gray. His father's footsteps moved across the upstairs hallway. Heavy boots, not PT shoes. Combat boots, deployment boots. Each step made Marcus's stomach twist tighter. "Marcus?" Mom's knock was soft. "Honey, it's time to get up." He didn't answer. The door handle turned. He pulled his blanket over his head. "Baby, please. Your father needs to leave in an hour." Marcus pressed his face into his pillow. Maybe if he pressed hard enough, he'd wake up, and it would be yesterday again. Or last week. Or any time before that envelope came. He made pancakes. "I'm not hungry." His voice came out muffled. Mom's weight settled on his bed. Her hand found his shoulder through the blanket. "He needs to see you before he goes." "No. Marcus, no." He kicked the blanket off. "I'm not getting up. I'm not eating pancakes. I'm not saying goodbye. He can't make me." Mom's face crumpled for a second before she caught herself. Okay, baby. Take your time." She left. Marcus heard her soft steps down the hall, heard her whispered conversation with Dad. "He needs space. We don't have time for space. Just give him a minute." More boot steps. Closer. Marcus jumped out of bed and slammed his door shut. The lock clicked. "Marcus." Dad's voice, right outside. "Open the door, son." "No. That's an order, soldier." "I'm not a soldier." Marcus kicked the door. "I'm not a soldier, and you can't order me." Silence. Then Dad's voice, lower. "You're right. You're not a soldier. You're my son, and I need to see you before I go." "Then don't go." More silence. Marcus pressed his forehead against the door, listening to his father breathe on the other side. "Please," Dad said finally. "Please don't let this be how we say goodbye." Marcus's throat burned. His hand moved to the lock on its own. The click seemed too loud in the quiet hallway. Dad opened the door slowly. He stood there in his full deployment uniform, desert tan instead of regular ACUs. His boots were newly polished. The flag patch on his shoulder seemed extra bright. "Hey, buddy." Marcus stared at his father's boots. They were the same ones he'd helped polish last night, but they looked different now. "Wrong. The pancakes are getting cold. Not hungry." Dad knelt down, putting himself at Marcus's eye level. "Look at me, son." Marcus kept staring at the boots. Dad's hand touched his chin, gentle but firm, lifting his face. "There you are." The tears came then, hot and fast. "Don't go. Come here." Dad pulled him into a hug, uniform rough against Marcus's face. "I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" Marcus shook his head against his father's chest. "Yes, you can. You're my son. Brave is in your blood." "I don't want to be brave." Marcus pushed away. "I want you to stay. Tell them no. Tell them you can't go." "Marcus," Jackson's dad said no last year. "You got a different assignment. You could do that. You could." "Stop." Dad's voice went hard. "You know that's not true." Jackson's father was injured. That's why his deployment was canceled. Marcus backed up until he hit his bed. "I hate you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Dad's face didn't change, but something in his eyes did. "You don't mean that." "I do. I hate you, and I hate the Army, and I hate everything." Mom appeared in the doorway. "Marcus, that's enough." "No. He's choosing to leave us. He doesn't have to go, but he's choosing to, and I hate him." Dad stood up slowly. His knees popped, the sound they made every morning when he got up from making pancakes. The familiar sound broke something in Marcus's chest. "I'm sorry you feel that way," Dad said quietly. "But I'm going to hug you anyway." "No." But Dad's arms were already around him, crushing him against the scratchy uniform. "I love you," Dad whispered. "Even when you're angry. Even when you hate me. I will always love you." Marcus broke. The sobs came hard, shaking his whole body. Dad held him tighter. "I don't hate you," he choked out. "I'm sorry. I don't hate you." "I know, buddy. I know." They stood like that until Mom's phone alarm beeped. 30 minutes. "Come on," Dad said. "Those pancakes aren't getting any warmer." Marcus let himself be led downstairs. The kitchen smelled like burned butter. A stack of cold pancakes sat on the table, syrup congealed around them. Dad picked up his coffee mug. It had gone cold too. He drank it anyway. Marcus sat at his usual spot. The pancakes tasted like cardboard, but he ate them. Each bite felt like swallowing rocks. Mom tried to make conversation. Asked Dad if he had everything packed. Asked Marcus if he wanted more syrup. Her voice got higher with each question nobody really answered. The wall clock ticked. 20 minutes. Dad started checking his gear. Combat boots laced tight. Dog tag secure. Phone charged. Marcus watched each movement, trying to memorize them. 10 minutes. A car engine outside. The crunch of tires on their driveway. 5 minutes. They're early, Mom said, her voice breaking. Dad stood up. Marcus, get your shoes. Why? Because we're walking out together. As a family. Marcus looked at his father's face. Really looked for the first time that morning. The stern lines around his mouth. The dark circles under his eyes. The way he kept swallowing like he was trying not to cry. He ran upstairs for his shoes. When he came back down, Dad was holding Mom. Her shoulders shook. Dad's face was pressed into her hair. Marcus stopped on the last step, suddenly feeling like he was intruding. But Dad looked up and held out one arm. Come here, soldier. This time, Marcus didn't argue with the word. He ran into his parents' embrace, breathing in the mixed smells of Mom's shampoo and Dad's uniform. Another car horn outside. Time to go? Dad whispered. They broke apart. Dad grabbed his duffel bag. Mom wiped her eyes. Marcus felt the folded drawing in his pocket, the one he'd worked on all week. The front door opened. Sunlight hit them like a spotlight. The military car sat in their driveway, engine running. Staff Sergeant Chun stood beside it, his face set in the same careful, blank expression he'd worn when delivering the deployment papers. Dad stopped at the front door, setting his duffel bag down. Final equipment check. Marcus knew this wasn't necessary. Dad had checked everything 5 times already, but he watched as his father went through each pocket, tested each zipper, adjusted each strap. Uniforms? Check, Mom said. Field manual? Check. Extra socks? Check. The familiar routine made Marcus's chest hurt. He dug into his pocket, fingers clutching the folded drawing. Pictures? Dad looked at Mom. Side pocket like always. Letters? Inner compartment. Phone charger. Both kinds. Dad's hands slowed. He was running out of things to check. Running out of reasons to stay on their front porch. Wait, Marcus said. His voice cracked. You forgot something. Dad looked up. What did I forget, buddy? Marcus pulled out the drawing, unfolding it carefully. The paper was creased from being in his pocket all night. He'd drawn his father in his desert uniform, standing tall, American flag behind him. He'd spent hours getting the camouflage pattern right. It's for your wall, Marcus said. In your, wherever you're going to sleep? Dad took the drawing. His hands shook slightly. Qatar. I'm going to sleep in Qatar. Is it far? Pretty far. But look, Dad knelt down, pulling out his phone. He opened a map app, showed Marcus the distance. See? We can video call. The time difference isn't too bad. Marcus stared at the glowing screen, at the vast distance between their home and where his father would be. How many miles? 7,412. That's too far. Dad put his phone away. Not too far for us. Nothing's too far for us. The car horn honked again. Sergeant Chun checked his watch. Sir, he said quietly. We need to. 5 more minutes. Dad's voice was sharp. Chun stepped back, looking away. Mom moved forward, straightening Dad's uniform collar even though it didn't need straightening. Did you pack the protein bars? 2 boxes. The good sunscreen? The 100 SPF, yes. Your allergy meds? In the front pocket. Her hands kept moving, kept finding things to adjust. Dad caught them, held them still. I'll be fine, he said. You better be. Mom's voice broke. You promised? I always keep my promises. Marcus watched them, the way they looked at each other like they were trying to memorize everything. He felt like he was disappearing, fading into the background of their goodbye. Then Dad turned to him. Marcus, come here. He stepped forward. Dad put his hands on Marcus's shoulders, squeezing gently. I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to take care of your mother. Mom made a sound, half laugh, half sob. And I need you to take care of yourself, Dad continued. Keep your grades up. Listen to your mom. And, his voice caught, keep making those Sunday pancakes. They're not the same without you. Make them anyway. Practice. By the time I get back, maybe you'll be better at them than me. Marcus shook his head. Nobody's better than you. Dad pulled him into another hug. Marcus felt something wet on his shoulder and realized his father was crying. Dad, I'm okay. Dad's voice was rough. Just proud of you. So proud. The car horn again. More insistent. Sir, Chin said, we really have to, I know. Dad stood up, wiping his eyes. I know. He grabbed his duffel bag, slung it over his shoulder. The movement was practice, smooth. He'd done it 100 times before. But this time felt different. Final. Marcus grabbed his father's sleeve. Wait. Just wait. I can't, buddy. One more minute. Please. Dad looked at Chun, who shook his head. The convoy won't wait, sir. You know that? Marcus held tighter. Please. You didn't tell me about the mission. You always tell me about the mission. Marcus, you didn't say what kind of planes you'll be fixing. You didn't tell me which unit you're supporting. You always tell me everything. Dad knelt down one last time. When I get there, okay? First video call. I'll tell you everything. Promise? Cross my heart. Marcus let go of his father's sleeve. The fabric was wrinkled where he'd gripped it. Dad kissed Mom one more time. Long. Hard. Then he turned and walked to the car. Chin opened the back door. Dad threw his duffel bag in. Dad! Marcus called out. Dad turned. Marcus's throat closed up. All the words he'd planned to say disappeared. Dad smiled. Somehow, that was worse than if he'd cried. I know, buddy. Me too. He got in the car. The door closed with a sound like thunder. Marcus watched through blurry eyes as Chin walked around to the driver's side. The car started moving. Dad! Marcus tried to run forward. Mom caught him. Held him. The car reached the end of their driveway. Turned left. Disappeared. The second the car disappeared from view, Marcus broke free from his mother's arms and ran. His feet hit the sidewalk hard, sneakers slapping against concrete. Behind him, he heard his mother calling his name, but he didn't stop. He ran past the neighbor's house, past the row of identical base housing units, following the path he knew the car would take. The morning air burned in his lungs. His heart pounded in his ears. The car was ahead, moving slowly through the base's residential area. Marcus pumped his legs harder. He'd won every race at field day last year. He could do this. He could catch up. Dad! His voice echoed off the empty houses. Dad, wait! The car didn't stop, but it had to slow down at the four-way stop ahead. Marcus pushed himself faster. His sides started to cramp. Sweat ran down his face. Or maybe they were tears. He couldn't tell anymore. He was close enough now to see his father's profile through the back window. Just a few more yards. Please. The word came out between gasps. Please wait. The car rolled through the stop sign. Marcus's legs felt like rubber, but he kept running. The American flags that lined the street whipped in the morning breeze, a blur of red, white, and blue as he passed. Up ahead, the base's main road stretched wide and empty. Once the car turned onto it, it would speed up. He'd lose them. Dad! The car's brake lights flashed red. It pulled over. Marcus's momentum carried him forward a few more steps before he could stop. He doubled over, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. The back door opened. Boot steps on pavement. Marcus, his father's voice, worried and stern at the same time. What are you doing? Marcus straightened up. His chest heaved. I forgot. Forgot what? I forgot to... He swallowed hard. I forgot to say... To tell you. Dad stepped closer. Behind him, Sergeant Chun stood by the car, checking his watch but not saying anything. Tell me what, buddy? Marcus looked up at his father. The morning sun caught on his rank insignia, on the American flag patch, on the dog tags hanging around his neck. He looked like every army poster in Marcus's room come to life. I love you, Marcus said, the words rushing out. I know I said I hated you, but I didn't mean it, and I love you, and please come back, please don't stay gone too long, please. Dad dropped to his knees, crushing Marcus against his chest. The uniform was rough against Marcus's face, but he didn't care. "I love you too," Dad whispered. "So much. So damn much." "Language, Sergeant," Marcus mumbled into his father's chest, and felt rather than heard his dad's laugh. "Sorry. Being a bad example again?" "Sir." Chen's voice, apologetic but firm. 2 minutes. Max. Dad pulled back, holding Marcus at arm's length. "Listen to me. Are you listening?" Marcus nodded. "I need you to go back to your mother. She's probably worried sick right now. Can you do that for me?" Another nod. "And Marcus?" Dad's hands tightened on his shoulders. "I'm coming back. Do you hear me? I'm coming back. Promise?" "I promise." "And what do we say about promises?" "Thompsons always keep their promises," Marcus recited. "That's right." Dad stood up. "Now go. Your mother needs you." Marcus took 2 steps backward, not wanting to turn around, not wanting to stop looking at his father. "Go on, soldier." Dad's voice was gentle. "That's an order." This time, Marcus didn't argue with the word. He turned and started walking. "Marcus." He looked back. Dad stood straight and tall, sunlight glinting off his rank insignia. "I'm proud of you, son. Always have been. Always will be." Marcus's throat closed up. He managed a nod. The car door opened. Closed. Engine started. Marcus watched until the car turned onto the main road, until it shrank to a dot in the distance, until it disappeared completely. Only then did he notice his mother, standing halfway down the block. She must have followed him. His legs felt heavy as he walked toward her. Each step seemed to take forever. When he reached her, she pulled him close. They stood there on the sidewalk, holding each other, while the morning traffic of the base moved around them. Somewhere overhead, a plane took off, its engines roaring against the sky. "He's gone," Marcus whispered. Mom's arms tightened. "I know, baby. What do we do now?" She took a shaky breath. "We wait. We pray. We stay strong." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Marcus looked up at the sky, at the contrails left by the departing plane. Somewhere up there, soon, his father would be flying away. 7,412 miles away. "Come on," Mom said softly. "Let's go home." They turned back toward their house. The American flag still lined the street, still waved in the morning breeze. But everything looked different now. Emptier. Marcus touched his pocket, where his father's last drawing had been. The paper was gone now, probably somewhere in Dad's duffel bag, heading to a place Marcus could barely pronounce. He thought about the pancakes getting cold on their kitchen table, about his father's coffee mug, still half full, about all the normal morning things that weren't normal anymore. At their front door, Mom stopped. "Ready?" Marcus wasn't ready. He didn't think he'd ever be ready for this new normal, this life where pancake Sundays had no dad and bedtime stories came through video calls and goodbye could last 12 months. But he remembered his father's words. Thompsons keep their promises. Thompsons stay strong. "Ready," he said, and followed his mother inside. That first night stretched endless. Marcus lay in bed, staring at his ceiling, listening to all the sounds that weren't there anymore. No boots in the hallway. No TV sports from downstairs. No dog tags clinking as his father moved around the house. The clock on his bedside table read 2,317 hours. His father would be in the air now, somewhere over the ocean. Marcus had tracked the flight path on his tablet until Mom made him turn it off and try to sleep. Try to sleep? Like it was that easy. His room felt wrong. The army posters that had always made him feel proud now seemed to mock him. His father's face smiled down from photos, frozen in time, already too far away. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Mom's footsteps, lighter than Dad's, paused outside his door. Marcus closed his eyes, pretended to sleep. The door opened slightly. He kept his breathing slow and even, just like Dad had taught him during their backyard camping trips. The door closed again. Mom's footsteps moved away, down the stairs. Marcus waited until he couldn't hear her anymore, then slid out of bed. The house felt bigger at night, emptier. His bare feet made no sound on the carpet as he crept down the hallway. Dad's study door stood half open. Light from the street lamp outside cast long shadows across the desk, the filing cabinet, the empty chair. Marcus slipped inside. The room smelled like his father, boot polish, coffee, that special soap he used that came in green bottles from the base exchange. The smell made Marcus's throat tight. He sat in Dad's chair. It was still set to Dad's height, too tall for him. His feet dangled above the floor. The desk was neat, organized. Dad always kept it that way. A clean desk means a clear mind, he'd say. But something was different tonight. A white envelope sat in the center of the desk, Marcus's name written on it in his father's precise handwriting. His hands shook as he picked it up. Inside was a DVD and a note. For when you miss my voice. Love, Dad. Marcus stared at the disc. On base movie nights, Dad always brought his laptop to play DVDs. The laptop was gone now, deployed with him, but Mom had a DVD player in her room. He found it under her TV, dusty from disuse. Everyone streamed movies these days. Marcus couldn't remember the last time they'd used an actual disc. His fingers fumbled with the buttons. The player hummed to life, tray sliding open with a word that seemed too loud in the quiet house. The screen flickered blue, then black. Then his father's face appeared. Dad sat at his desk, wearing his PT uniform. He must have recorded this recently. The deployment papers were visible on the desk behind him. Hey, buddy. Dad's voice filled the room. If you're watching this, it means I'm already gone. And knowing you, you're probably supposed to be sleeping right now. Marcus almost laughed. Almost. I made this because there are some things I needed to tell you. Things that are harder to say in person. Dad shifted in his chair. First, I want you to know that this isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. I didn't deploy because you did anything wrong, or because I want to be away from you and your mother. I deployed because sometimes duty calls, and answering that call is part of who I am. On screen, Dad picked up something. The framed photo of Marcus's first baseball game that usually sat on his desk. But being your father is the most important part of who I am. Nothing changes that. Not distance, not time, not anything. Marcus hugged his knees to his chest, watching his father's face, memorizing every detail. I know the next few months won't be easy. There will be days when you're angry, days when you're sad, days when you feel like it's not fair. And you're right, it's not fair. But you're stronger than you know, Marcus. You get that from your mother. Dad set the photo down, leaned closer to the camera. I need you to do something for me while I'm gone. Something important. Marcus nodded at the screen, even though he knew his father couldn't see him. I need you to let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. Don't try to be brave all the time. Don't try to be the man of the house. Just be Marcus. My son. That's enough. That's more than enough. Something creaked behind Marcus. He turned to find Mom standing in the doorway, wearing Dad's old army t-shirt as a nightgown. Couldn't sleep either, she asked softly. Marcus shook his head. On screen, Dad was still talking. And most importantly, I need you to know that wherever I am, whatever time it is, I'm thinking about you. Missing you. Loving you. Mom sat on the bed beside Marcus. Her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying. When did he make this? She asked. I don't know. Found it in his study. They watched together as Dad pulled out a familiar book, The Soldier's Guide, worn and dog-eared from years of use. Remember how we used to read this together? On screen, Dad smiled. Well, I left my copy in my desk drawer. Middle drawer, right side. I marked some of our favorite parts. Marcus glanced at Mom. She nodded. He ran to the study, found the drawer, the book exactly where Dad said it would be. When he came back, Dad was finishing. I love you, buddy. Be good for your mother. And remember, Thompsons always keep their promises. Marcus whispered along with the recording. The screen went black. Mom pulled Marcus close. They sat in the dark room, the empty DVD player humming softly, the book heavy in Marcus's lap. He'll be okay, Mom said, but her voice shook. He's always okay. Marcus opened the book. Yellow sticky notes marked certain pages, his father's handwriting cramped in the margins. Page 54, he read out loud. How to be brave when you're scared. Mom's breath caught. Want to read it together? Marcus asked. She nodded. They read until the sky outside turned gray, until Marcus's eyes grew heavy, until the empty spaces didn't feel quite so empty anymore. When he finally fell asleep, the book was still open on his chest, his father's words surrounding him. protecting him, even from 7,412 miles away. Marcus woke early Sunday morning. For a moment, he lay still, listening for the familiar whistle of the Army's song from the kitchen. Only crickets chirped outside his window. His clock read 0630. Dad would already be making pancakes if he were here. The thought made Marcus's stomach hurt, but something else too. Something that felt like determination. He slid out of bed, pulled on his PT shorts and the Army t-shirt Dad had given him before leaving. It still smelled faintly of laundry detergent and home. The kitchen was dark. No coffee brewing. No butter melting. No Dad whistling. Marcus found a step stool they kept for reaching high shelves. His hands shook as he pulled out the mixing bowl. The blue one, Dad's favorite. The pancake griddle was heavier than he remembered. "What's step one?" he whispered to himself, trying to remember his father's lessons. "Check the butter. Watch for bubbles, not brown." He dragged the step stool to the stove, climbed up. The butter pad slipped in his fingers, landed with a soft plop on the griddle. Too much. Dad always used less. But Dad wasn't here to show him. Marcus wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Soldiers don't cry over butter. Dry ingredients first, he remembered Dad saying. Wet ingredients second. That's Army regulation. He lined up the containers. Flour, sugar, baking powder, salt. His measurements weren't as precise as Dad's, but he tried. The first egg cracked wrong, shell fragments falling into the bowl. The second was better. By the third, he almost had it right. Whisking was harder than it looked. Dad made it seem easy, his arm moving in smooth circles while he told stories about Army mess halls and field kitchens. Marcus's movements were jerky, splashing batter onto the counter. "Baby?" Mom's voice from the doorway made him jump. "What are you doing?" Marcus didn't turn around. "Making pancakes?" "Oh, honey, it's Sunday," he said, whisking harder. "We always have pancakes on Sunday." Mom's footsteps crossed the kitchen. Her hand touched his shoulder. "Want help?" "No." The word came out sharper than he meant. "I mean, Dad taught me. I can do it." She stood there for a moment, then moved to the coffee maker. The familiar sounds of her morning routine filled the kitchen. Water running, coffee grinding, mugs clinking. Marcus poured the first pancake. The batter spread too thin, uneven. Not the perfect circle Dad always managed. "Watch for the bubbles," he muttered. "When they pop and stay open, flip." The spatula felt awkward in his hand. He waited, counting seconds in his head like Dad taught him. The edges started to brown. Bubbles formed, popped, stayed open. Now or never. The flip went wrong. Batter splattered. The pancake folded in half, torn and messy. "Damn it!" The curse slipped out before he could stop it. "Language," Mom said automatically, then softer. "It's okay. First pancake is always a practice run. Not when Dad makes them. Even when Dad makes them. You just never saw the practice ones, because he ate them before you woke up." Marcus looked at her. "Really?" She nodded, sipping her coffee. "Why do you think he always got up so early on Sundays?" Something tight in Marcus's chest loosened a little. He scraped the ruined pancake into the trash, poured another. This one spread better. He watched the bubbles form, waited until they were just right. The flip wasn't perfect, but the pancake landed mostly intact. Golden brown. Not Dad-level perfect, but looking good, Mom said. Marcus felt his face get hot. "It's not as good as, it's perfect." He made another, and another. Each one got a little better. The kitchen filled with familiar smells. Melted butter, coffee, vanilla. Mom set the table. 2 places instead of 3. The empty chair seemed to watch them. "Dad would want syrup," Marcus said, carrying the plate of pancakes. "Lots of syrup." "And butter," Mom added. "Army regulation." They sat. The pancakes weren't perfectly round. Some were too brown, others too pale. But when Marcus took his first bite, something happened. "Mom? I found something." He got up, ran to Dad's study. The folder was where he'd left it last night, tucked between the pages of the soldier's guide. He brought it back to the kitchen, opened it carefully. Inside were papers covered in Dad's handwriting. "What's that?" Mom asked. "Dad's recipes. All of them. The pancakes, his famous chili, even the Christmas cookies." Marcus spread the papers on the table. He left them in his desk. "With notes." Mom picked up the pancake recipe. Dad's writing covered the margins. Less butter than you think. Count to 30 after bubbles form. Tell Marcus the secret is in the vanilla. Your father. Mom's voice caught. She cleared her throat. Your father thinks of everything. Marcus studied the recipe. I did it wrong. It says 2 eggs, not 3. Then we'll try again next Sunday. Mom squeezed his hand. And the Sunday after that. Until we get it right. Until Dad comes home. They ate in comfortable silence. Outside, the base was waking up. A plane rumbled overhead. Cars passed. The American flag on their porch snapped in the morning breeze. Marcus gathered the dishes, ran water in the sink. The cleaning routine was as important as the cooking, Dad always said. Want help? Mom asked. No, I got it. He paused. But maybe you could read me the recipe for next time so I can practice. Mom picked up the papers, pulled her chair closer to the sink. Step 1, she read, gather your ingredients like you're planning a mission. Marcus washed dishes while Mom read. The morning sun filled the kitchen. The empty chair at the table didn't seem quite so empty anymore. It wasn't the same as having Dad there. Nothing could be. But maybe, Marcus thought as he dried the blue mixing bowl, that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was keeping the tradition alive. Change different but alive. Like Dad had written at the bottom of the recipe. Remember, soldier, it's not about making them perfect. It's about making them with love. Marcus put the bowl away, stood on tiptoes to reach the high shelf where it belonged. Next Sunday would be better. And the Sunday after that. Until Dad came home, Marcus sat at the kitchen table, staring at Mom's laptop. The video call program showed, connecting, in pulsing blue letters. His hands were still dusty with flour. Sunday morning pancakes had gone better this time. Almost perfect circles golden brown. Dad's recipe notes helped. Still connecting? Mom asked from the sink where she was finishing the dishes. Still trying? The base's internet could be slow, especially on Sundays when everyone tried to call home. Marcus watched the loading circle spin, spin, spin. Then, hey buddy. Dad's face filled the screen, grainy but there. He wore his tan t-shirt, dog tags glinting under the fluorescent lights of what looked like an office. Dad! Marcus leaned closer to the screen. Can you see me? Clear as day. Dad adjusted his camera. Is that flour on your face? Marcus wiped his cheek. We made pancakes. Did you now? Dad's smile widened. How'd they turn out? Show him, Mom said, drying her hands. Marcus lifted the plate he'd saved. 3 pancakes, not quite as flat as Dad's, but golden brown and mostly round. Would you look at that? Dad leaned toward his camera. Those are regulation pancakes, soldier. You followed the recipe. Every step. Even the vanilla. Especially the vanilla, Dad corrected. That's the secret weapon. Mom appeared over Marcus's shoulder. Hi, hon. There's my beautiful wife. Dad's voice softened. How are you holding up? We're okay. Missing you. Miss you too. Both of you. Dad shifted, and the camera showed more of his surroundings. A desk, a wall calendar, a window with blinds closed against desert sun. Is that your office? Marcus asked. Sure is. Want the tour? Dad picked up his laptop, walked them around the small room. Marcus's drawing hung on the wall next to Dad's desk, carefully smoothed out, the creases from being in his pocket barely visible. Best artwork in the whole base, Dad said proudly. He showed them his desk, his coffee mug. Marcus had picked it out at the base exchange before he left, the American flag in the corner. And look what I keep right here. Dad's camera focused on a framed photo, their last family picture, taken the week before deployment. So I can see you every day. Marcus touched the screen. We have the same picture on the fridge. I know exactly where. Right next to your last report card. Dad sat back down. Speaking of which, how's schools? Good. I got an A on my history test. The one about World War II? Yeah. I remembered everything you told me about the different planes they used. Dad beamed. That's my boy. Always paying attention to the details. The video froze for a moment. Dad's proud smile stuck in digital limbo. Marcus held his breath until it started moving again. Now, Dad said about those pancakes. Did you remember to watch the butter? Not too brown? Just bubbles, Marcus recited. And I counted to 30 after flipping, just like your note said. Notes? Dad raised an eyebrow at Mom. He found your recipe folder, she explained. In your desk. Ah. Dad's eyes crinkled. Was wondering when you'd find that. You left it for me to find? Course I did. Couldn't let my pancake apprentice work without proper documentation. That's not the Army way. Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. Even 7,000 miles away, Dad had planned ahead, had known exactly what they'd need. How's the weather there? Mom asked. Hot. Dry. Makes Georgia's summer feel like spring. Dad wiped his forehead for effect. But the stars at night? Marcus, you'd love them. Clearest sky I've ever seen. Clearer than camping in the backyards. Much clearer. When I get back, maybe we can do some real camping. Stars like these, but with trees instead of sand. Promise? Cross my heart. Dad made an X over his chest. And you know what they say about Thompson promises? Thompsons always keep their promises, Marcus said with Mom. The video stuttered again. Dad's image pixelated, froze, came back grainy. Connection's getting spotty, Dad said. Might have to wrap up soon. Marcus's throat tightened. But we just started talking. I know, buddy. But hey, same time next Sunday? After pancakes? After pancakes. Maybe by then you'll be better at them than me. Marcus shook his head. Nobody's better than you. Don't be so sure. Those look pretty regulation to me. Dad glanced at something off-screen. 2 minutes to next call. Mom squeezed Marcus's shoulder. We love you. Love you too. Both of you. So much. Dad leaned close to his camera. Marcus? Yeah. I'm proud of you. Taking care of the pancake tradition. Taking care of your mother. Being strong. I'm trying. You're succeeding. Dad's voice was firm. Keep it up, soldier. The warning box appeared. Connection unstable. Dad? Marcus pressed his hands against the screen. Come back soon? Soon as I can, buddy. Soon as I can. The image froze one last time on Dad's smile, then went black. Call ended, flashed across the screen. Marcus stared at the blank laptop. Mom's arms wrapped around him from behind. He looks good, she said softly. Yeah. Marcus wiped his eyes. The stars really that clear there? Must be. Mom kissed the top of his head. Something to look forward to. Camping under those Georgia stars. Marcus nodded. He could almost see it. Him and Dad in their backyard tent, looking up at the night sky, sharing stories and secrets like they used to. Soon, he stood up, went to the sink, started cleaning the laptop screen where his flowery fingerprints had left marks. Marcus? Mom watched him from the table. You okay? He thought about it, about the pancakes that were almost perfect, about Dad's proud smile, about promises kept and promises waiting to be kept. Yeah, he said, I'm okay. Because he was. Not perfect okay. Not everything is normal okay. But Thompson okay. Strong okay. The kind of okay that could last 12 months, if it had to. Marcus dried the laptop carefully, put it away. Through the kitchen window, he could see the base waking up to another Sunday morning. The American flag on their porch caught the sunlight, red and white and blue against the cloudless sky. Somewhere, under different stars but the same flag, Dad was probably starting his day too. Maybe thinking about pancakes. Maybe missing them as much as they missed him. Marcus touched the recipe notes on the table, his father's handwriting bold and sure on the paper. Until next Sunday, he whispered. And somehow, he knew even across all those miles, Dad whispered it too.